You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Radio Show, only on Financial News and Talk. Now live in studio, your host, local and national real estate expert and consumer advocate, Ron Siegel.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. But before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guests.
When I had my
wait, that's the wrong.
I had a question.
That's the wrong sound bite for them. Where's our correct sound bite? I know we've got it here somewhere. Aha.
I'm cuckoo.
There we go.
Cuckoo, so let's take a chance doing your dance. Well, I'm cuckoo and you're cuckoo. Sing la 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 la. All the folks have all gone wild. Oh, what a howdy do.
He's insulting.
Jim Norton and Blake Vartanian, Realty Pro 100. They're in the house. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be back.
Yeah,
I
thank
use
you, Ron.
that term loosely. Let me remind
Good
you.
or be back.
What's that?
Good or be back. Which term?
Gentlemen.
Oh, that.
Okay, I mean, if you need me to help you explain these things, Jim, I mean,
It is Wednesday, you know.
yeah, okay, well, we'll slow the show down so that we can get Jim in here
To a
today.
crawl.
Let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you, and you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Well, I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan, a plan to save you money. I personally work with you. Even if you don't have any needs today, save this number in your phone for future reference. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, we're celebrating today. There's a lot of things to celebrate today. I should say, there's a lot of things on the list to celebrate today. And most of them, we're going to skip. We're going to go right to the good stuff here because today is National Chocolate Ice Cream Day. And yeah, I like ice cream and I like chocolate ice cream. So National Chocolate, maybe Rocky Road ice cream. I like that one a little bit better, but you know something, peanut butter and chocolate. I like that too.
Chocolate.
But is it Rocky Road? Is
It's
it
not
walnuts or almonds?
Almonds, I think it
Yeah,
is.
there
No.
you go.
No, it's chocolate, baby. Straight. Just
Here we go.
like your tequila.
I had to
straight.
open it up.
Norton's going straight on us
Come
for a
on,
change.
you know.
That's a whole new.
You're
That's
That's a different subject.
that's the word I lost the fifth grade spelling bee with. Chocolate.
Straight?
I didn't know how to spell it. No, straight. No,
You
straight.
lost.
just curious.
No, we're not
here.
going there. We're going to say with chocolate.
You
Okay,
lost,
so-
you lost the spelling bee on chocolate.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay,
I
spell
got
it,
so
yeah.
excited to think visually. I saw the chocolate and I choked. I was second place that year.
Choked on the chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right.
Let's move right along.
Yep.
Dow Jones Industrial. Whoa. Okay. Now we're switching things around a little bit. Dow is up 30. The Nasdaq's down almost 8. The S&P's down almost 8. Nasdaq down 80. Oil up $1.40 a barrel. President still sleeping. Didn't know he was supposed to be buying oil. But that's a whole different story. Gasoline prices. Should we look at them today and see what they're doing? Nah. Let's see what's going on in the world. How'd you like? Wonder what's going to go on now? Golf. You know, I got to talk golf. I got to love it. How about the PGA? They're not going to get involved at all with the LIV tournament, and the players, they're going to be ostracized. I guess Saudi Arabia had enough money to change their mind, didn't they? So fascinating watching that going on now. I wonder if it's going to be the PGA brought to you by Saudi Arabia. And I just wonder about this whole thing because all these people that are complaining about Saudi Arabia and golf and the Saudi money, do they wonder where Saudi Arabia gets their money from? Oh, yeah, it's from us buying oil from them. So basically, all they're doing is they're recycling the money. They're taking the money that they make in oil because they don't need that. They're down to 9 million barrels a day. They have no need for that much oil. So they're selling it to the U.S., collecting our money, and then they're going to give it back to the golfers. Now, the one thing that nobody ever really talks about when they talk about money in golf, they forget the idea of how much money golf gives to charity every year. And that's the nice thing. So I wonder if they take the money in, they goes back to Saudi Arabia. So I don't know if there's a taxable event there. They give it to charity. They probably get a tax write-off for that. So we might have to get an accountant to come in here, a CPA to come in here and talk about the tax implications of these things. But let's move right along and see what else is going on in the world. Apple stock down some more. That's not doing good. I guess the idea here was it was better to talk about those virtual reality glasses than to get the things into the marketplace, understand the market. They're not out yet, but the stock's already jumping. Have you seen the new? Now, we're all old in here. Some of us not quite as old as others, but we're all old in here. So Apple, the latest from Apple, did you see this one? They're not going to support their new iOS is not going to be going on they're not going to have it for anything before the iPhone 8. Now, we're not going to talk about that too much in here because I think Blake is still using a flip phone. That's a whole different story. But why do they do that? What is the benefit of that? Well, I just read that there's some numbers this morning about Apple phones. You know why they do that? The real reason? Because all those people that didn't want to upgrade, now they basically have to upgrade. So think about how many more phones that they're going to put out in the marketplace just simply because of the new operating system that's coming out. I think it's in the fall. That's going to have a not support backward capability. And I would admit, I'll be the first to submit that I love Apple products. I've been using them for 10 years or so. If you were to sit at my desk, I've got the whole ecosystem here.
You do.
2 iPads, MacBook, iPhone, AirPods.
Come September, you're going to have an iPhone 15 too.
He even has a Lisa on his desk.
Not
No,
good.
we just showed our age on that.
Oh,
one.
never mind.
Oh my God, the
Lisa's on the
Lisa.
desk.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Lisa.
Well,
Whole
it
new
was
story.
a computer for those of you who don't know.
Oh, okay.
What was that little, the little one all enclosed that the Kevin Costner commercial, first time the mouse, and it was all one unit.
Oh.
Wasn't the
I
colored
think-
one?
Were you
Macintosh?
fantasizing or what?
No. It was the
The Macintosh one?
yeah, but it was
Okay, dead air. So I guess
black and white
I guess
screen.
so. One of the things we're
Oh.
gonna have to inform Jim that it helps when he's got a subject here for us to talk about
It
that at
was
least
in
one
19
of us knows about.
It was 1904.
Oh, okay. So you're still using Windows 95 too, right?
Yeah.
They have a Windows 95.
That was the one that you probably are still using.
No, I'm using Windows. What was the first one before that?
That was the first one.
Oh, I thought
That was
90,
DOS, Jim. That was
was it
DOS.
90?
Yeah.
Or Fortran 4. Do you?
No,
I can do the computer cards. I did
Oh,
those.
yeah,
I did those in college.
Fortran.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
You programmed on the cards.
I learned the latest at the time, and then we were sitting there. We look across the room and we say, "What are those?" We'd never seen a screen with picture on it other than the television, and they were like,
That was
"Those are
the first
those
television.
are personal
3 channels.
computers." Yeah, those are personal computers. We're like, "Well, what are those?"
Yeah.
And we didn't know. It was 1981,
Wow.
and they said only the upperclassmen get to do that, the graduate students. And we were like,
you were a graduate student in 81, weren't you?
I graduated in 81, and they were happy to get rid of me.
I'm sure.
Yeah, they didn't want me coming back for more.
I
You're
had
listening to Ron Siegel
I had
Radio discussing your real estate
cards.
current events and the financial markets. When we come back, we're going to chat. I think something maybe we'll find a subject. Maybe we can get Jim to that knows about it. We'll talk about real estate. We'll talk about that one. Where's the market going? Why is nothing available for sale? We're going to talk about that. Blake and I were chatting about that earlier today. The main reason mortgage rates are so high, credit scores, which one really matter? All that and more. Reach me anytime off air, number 800 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
79% of all credit reports have errors that should be corrected through factual disputing. You could be saving thousands every year if your report was accurate. CreditSanitizer.com provides a free credit report audit when you furnish a specific $1 credit report. You can use this information to request corrections to your report and potentially save thousands of dollars. Get your free credit audit at CreditSanitizer.com. That's CreditSanitizer.com for a free credit report audit. CreditSanitizer.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Mindy's got a baby.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. You got a phone? Make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And every day at this time, OBMMI, they provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual locked rates with consumers across 42% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. Let's see what happened to interest rates yesterday. Again, OBMMI, they report the information, or they share the information. We report it. We do not know APR. We do not know how many points paid or received. We just are sharing OBMMI's public information. 30-year conforming loans, those were down a little bit, 6.733. 30-year jumbo loans down 6.767. The 30-year FHA, that was up 6.666. I think I need stronger glasses. 30-year USDA loans, rural area, generally no down payment. That was down a little bit, 6.572. The best loan on the market, that would be the 30-year VA loan, 6.429. That was up a little bit. What's happening today? The 10-year Treasury is up 9 basis points. Wow. S&P 500 is down 10. Mortgage-backed securities are down 28, which means interest rates are up today again. We're going to talk about that more in the next segment, though. But, hey, let's take a look at this. What's going on? Evercore Trucking Survey. Generally, the trucking surveys are an early indicator of the economy. And it's an accurate recession indicator when the index drops below 48. The most recent reading, 36, shows that we're deeply in recession territory. Now, we've been watching this one when we're talking about inflation. Used cars. Where do you get used car information from? Well, the largest used car auction in the country, that would be Manheim. So they wholesale used vehicle index continued to decline in May, down 2.7% decrease. Wow, it's for the month of May. Down 7.6 year over year. Used cars were a major contributor to inflation in the last CPI report, where they were up 4.4. So talk about a yo-yo, up 4.4 one month, down 2.7 the next month from Manheim. So they've got that information. And the Mortgage Bankers Association, we look at them to find out, mortgage rates, they're old data. So basically this data that they give on mortgage rates was from last week. But what they do give us, the most current data that we have, purchases fell by 2% last week, down 27% year over year. And we're looking at refinances decreased by 1% last week, down 42% year over year. Yet last year, they were down about 85%. So many of you, I get it, you don't want to face the facts. The fact is your credit card debt is higher than it was before. Student loans debt is coming back. You're going to probably have to start paying that in September. And you've got a boatload of equity. And you're saying, oh, but Ron, I got a 3% interest rate. Wonderful. That's the rate that you're paying out of your left front pocket. Your right front pocket, you're paying 25 and 30%. I'm just giving it to you like it is. If you want to know what your real household interest rate is, we'll blend them together. We'll weight them for you. All you have to do is let us know what all your debts are, rj@ronsiegelradio.com. And my guess is that for most households, even though I know the vast majority have an interest rate on their mortgage below 4%, your blended rate is probably going to be somewhere in the 7 to 9% range. And you're sitting there saying, I got a 3% mortgage. I'm not going to do anything. Well, enjoy the extra payments because that's what's happening to you right now because you're not making a phone call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, I have seen where we've been able to double someone's mortgage rate and cut their household debt service. That's the actual money coming out of your pocket by $1,300 a month. Now, I'm just a simple guy here. If you go over to Vaughn's or Ralph's or Stater Brothers or Costco and tell them, I've got a 3% mortgage, see how much you can get in the way of groceries for a 3% mortgage. If you say, I've got $1,000, I bet you get more groceries than a 3% mortgage gets you. That's the Mortgage Minute brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. Make the call to save your family money. 800-306-1990. I'll get off my soapbox now. We do have Blake Vartanian and Jim Norton, more commonly known for those that are old.
So let's take a chance doing your dance. Well, I'm cuckoo and you're cuckoo.
They're the Cuckoo Brothers. Oh, no, Laurel and Hardy, we call them affectionately. Talking real estate. So between them, they've got, well, Blake, I think, got Abraham Lincoln his first mortgage, maybe his second. But, we were talking before the broadcast, Blake and I were chatting about this. What's going to get people to actually buy to sell a house, Blake?
Well, I mean, I think most people are still digesting the current rate environment and trying to figure out what happened, right? So you look a little over a year ago, you could get a mortgage for under 3%. Now you're just quoting rates just under 7%, and they're trying to figure out.
Not quoting rates on Ron Siegel Radio. We're just reporting them.
Pardon me. There
might be my compliance officers.
The words that, I understand. So, that's the first time in the 40 years that I've been part of the business where interest rates have doubled in less than 12 months.
That's because I think it's the first time it's ever happened.
Yeah, probably. So, I think that was a big thing for a lot of people. They're looking at it and saying, well, my mortgage is, let's say, $3,000 a month. Why do I want to go to a $4,500 or $5,000 a month payment? But you have to look at the overall, what are you getting for your money and what are your other investment opportunities? So, I always say you can't just look at one thing and say, that's not good for me. I started selling real estate. Interest rates were 18, 19, 20%, and people were still buying and selling real estate. And I think that's the way we're going to get to, because you
think we're going back to 18 or 19 or 20%?
No, I think we're going to find that, in comparison, that we're in a really low interest rate environment compared to where it has been historically.
Okay.
It's just people are, I think, needing
Spoiled.
time to digest it. Well, and we did. We got spoiled unnecessarily because the Fed just kept rates so low, and now we're all paying the price for that.
Sure. And so I just pulled up while we're chatting here, this says as of today. I don't know. It's probably Monday, but I just pulled up the report, and I'm looking at 92807, and I'm looking at this Friday, June 2nd. Okay, so here, as of June 2nd, 22 homes for sale in 92807. You go back to March 26th, 24 homes. March 19th, 25 homes.
It's so out of sync. The last 5 or so spring markets have been very unpredictable when it comes to housing inventory. And typically June is the biggest sales month in the yearly cycle as schools are ending and people are on the move. And I would say that at least out of the last 43 Junes that I've been in the business, at least 35 of them, the June was the biggest month of the year. The last 5 have. Well, last year was a bust. I mean, if you look
Sure,
at the
interest
industry
rates are just
numbers,
crazy.
yeah, April was a good month. May was less good, and June was a disaster because by then interest rates were peaking at that part, and then all summer long they kept getting raised, and by September we hit another drop in the market cycle in terms of numbers of deals that were closing. So right now there's if you say there's 2,000 active listings in the Orange County real estate market, that's including homes that are 5 million, 10 million. That's not available to the average consumer. They're not going to be able to
Jim buys
purchase
too.
that. Yeah, he buys them with his money in his lunch money. But the reality is, these cycles will ebb and flow. And my advice would be is if you're going to sell, it's really important to not try to time the peak of the market. You can price your home properly, probably maybe get multiple bids on it if you price it right and have an aggressive marketing campaign behind it and get your money and go. I have been in a market cycle where literally homes sat on the market for 9, 10, 11, 12 months when they were priced right, and you were just hoping to get one offer. And I'm not suggesting that's in our future, but I do know it's part of the past, and it was coming out of a cycle similar to where we are now.
Well, I think that's a big issue right there is there's you hit it on the head that interest rates doubled, but that's an anomaly. They're kind of correcting.
Yes.
But I think also the fact is we constantly go through cycles.
Yes.
Right. So low inventory or low sales or buyers markets, sellers markets, we're always in some sort of a cycle.
Well, in some parts of the country, they're actually, going through price depreciation. And
I think we're down to one place, Austin, Texas. No, sure. I think last report I saw, Austin, Texas is the only place now that the prices are declining. Everywhere else, I mean, they're going up. It's because crazy, right? Because
the migration is still going on,
and there's still a lack of inventory.
And there's still a lack of
right, and we've got 1.9 million household formations.
It's very interesting enough.
I mean, Jim and I are trying to do our part of this. I've got a couple that we got out of the house. That's formations, right? You have a couple out of the house formations.
Well, in my ballpark,
you're old enough that yours already were out of the house. So you're not part of that new formation.
Before we had the global way of looking at inventory, I used to judge it based off of because the MLS book only covered a certain area. So if I was in an area that I didn't know, multiple listing service book that we used to have before the internet, I was trained with that. Yes, thank God he invented it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I would look at a street, and if there were no homes for sale on the street, no signs up, I would say then it was a tight area in that local, because all real estate's local.
Right.
So and then if there was one listing on that street, it was still a good seller's market. If there were 2, it was probably balanced. And if there was 3 homes for sale on the same street, it was becoming more of a buyer's market because you had the ability to shop, buy, make an offer. If they didn't like that one, you could go down the street and make an offer on the other one and see if you could get a better deal. We haven't seen that market cycle in quite a long time, and it's unusual and probably unhealthy for the real estate market to stay that way for much longer, because we're going to hit a bubble that Elon Musk tweeted and people reacted the other day about the commercial real estate. I'm not saying exact quote, but the commercial real estate is about to crash, and then the housing market's going to crash. Well, I don't believe the housing market's going to crash. I believe there will be a change, because there's always a change. But I think there's so much equity in the homes that are currently there, and people who need a place to live, because there's still a national housing shortage, and that's what's driving it. There's about 4 million homes that need to be built for us to have a balanced housing market with the demand that exists.
It's great information there. Now, for those of you that want to use the Blake Vartanian Market Action Index, you've got that one. He just explained that really well. For those of you that want to get something that's a little more modern, now that we've got the internet, you go to rsrlistana.com, rsrlistana.com. That'll give you a market action index. It kind of gives us whether we're a strong market or buyer's market, seller's market. And it's updated by our friends at Altos Research every week. And you can actually put in any zip code, because Blake's right, it is all local. Put in any zip code you want, and you can get that information. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Jim and Blake. We're going to unpack two subjects that Blake gave us there right at the very end of that bite. Real estate and what effect it has on the economy as a whole, and a commercial real estate market crash. We're going to talk about both of those, as well as the main reason mortgage rates are so high and credit scores, which one really matter. All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Is your budget getting blown up with high prices of gas and increased costs for other household needs? This is Ron Siegel, host of the daily home and finance radio program. Did you know if you have a low interest rate mortgage along with auto debt, credit card debt, or student loans, your family could potentially save $500 or more per month by restructuring these debts? If you'd like a free Borrow Smart analysis with our team, let's book an appointment to see how we might be able to relieve some stress. Schedule your appointment at rsrbsa.com. That's rsrbsa.com for your free Borrow Smart analysis. rsrbsa.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com. Great source of information for you. And no, it doesn't cost you anything. rsrmoney.com. The main reason mortgage rates are so high. Today's mortgage rates are top of mind for many home buyers right now. As a result, if you're thinking about buying for the first time or selling your current house to move into a home that better fits your needs, you may be asking yourself these two questions. Number one, why are mortgage rates so high? And number two, when will rates go back down? So let's put this into context for you to help answer those questions. Number one, why are mortgage rates so high? The 30-year fixed rate mortgage is largely influenced by the supply and demand for mortgage-backed securities, according to Investopedia, and it's on the internet, so it must be correct. Quote, mortgage-backed securities, MBS, are investment products similar to bonds. Each MBS consists of a bundle of home loans and other real estate debt bought from the banks that issued them. The investor who buys a mortgage-backed security is essentially lending money to home buyers, unquote. Demand for MBS helps determine the spread between the 10-year Treasury yield and the 30-year fixed mortgage rate. Historically, the average spread between the two is 1.72. And if you are watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, any of our socials or the ABC News and Talk AM 1490 video feed, you're seeing a chart. For 50 years, the 30-year mortgage rate has moved in unison with the 10-year Treasury yield. And again, the average spread, 1.72. Last Friday morning, the mortgage rate was 6.85%. That means the spread was 3.2%. 3.2. Ow! Which is almost 1.5% the norm, almost double what it normally is. If the spread was at its historical average, mortgage rates would be 5.37%, 3.65 yield plus the 1.72 spread. So mortgage rates should be at 5.37. Why are mortgage rates so high? The increase in the spread above the 10-year yield is now dynamic. And you're again, another chart there for you. Mortgage rates, 5.37 is where if there was a normal spread, 3.2 gives us a 6.85% mortgage rate. And this is according to Mortgage News Daily and CNBC for those of you that want us to source everything. Large spread is very unusual, as George Ratui, chief economist at Keep It Current Matters, explains, quote, the only times the spread approached or exceeded 300 basis points, 3% for those of you keeping score, were during periods of high inflation or economic volatility, like those seen in the early 1980s or the great financial crisis, 2008, 2009, unquote. Do we have are we in the middle of high inflation or economic volatility? Yeah, I think maybe.
Surprise.
Another graph uses historical data to help us illustrate this point by showing the few times the spread has increased to 300 basis points or more. Look at that, 1980, 2008, and 2023. The graph shows how the spread has come down after each peak. The good news is that means there's room for mortgage rates to improve today. So that's what's causing the larger spread and making mortgage rates so high today. Again, I talked in the last segment about debt. Don't worry about the mortgage rates. Go to rsr2step.com, rsr2step.com. You're going to get that refinance done now. We don't care about the rate. We save money. Then we get rid of the cash out refi expense in a later date when rates are more in line with history. Demand for mortgage, we don't guarantee anything, but we do forecast. The demand for mortgage-backed securities is heavily influenced by the risk associated with investing in them. Today, that risk is impacted by broader market conditions like inflation and fear for a potential recession, the Fed's interest rate hikes to try and bring down inflation, headlines that create unnecessarily negative narratives about home prices, and more. Simply put, when there's less risk, demand for MBS is high, so mortgage rates will be lower. On the other hand, if there's more risk, demand for MBS will be low, and we'll see higher mortgage rates as a result. Currently, demand for mortgage-backed securities is low, so rates are high. Number two, when will rates go back down? Odetta Kushke, deputy economist at First American, answers the question in a recent blog. Quote, it's reasonable to assume that the spread and therefore mortgage rates will retreat in the second half of the year if the Fed takes its foot off the monetary tightening pedal and provides investors with more certainty. Yeah, well, we know what we think about the Fed.
Such an idiot.
Such
an idiot. Such an idiot.
Again, I continue with the quote from Odetta Kushke. However, it's unlikely that the spread will return to its historical average of 170 basis points, as some risks are here to stay, unquote. Yeah. Bottom line, the spread will shrink when the fear investors feel is eased. That'll mean we should see mortgage rates moderate as the year goes on. However, when it comes to forecasting mortgage rates, no one can know for sure exactly what will happen. But again, take care of your family now. rsr2step.com, rsr2step.com. That's the real-time real estate segment brought to you by RSR Money. Charts, they are on our Facebook page, and we can get those to you if you'll send a request, rj@ronsiegelradio.com, rj@ronsiegelradio.com. We can send those charts to our Facebook user who's inquiring right there. Get back to our conversation. We've got Blake Vartanian and we've got Jim Norton in the house. They are our dynamic duo. But I want to get back to a comment that Blake made. And it's a fascinating subject matter because people don't think of the economy of real estate. And one of the big issues of real estate, and I don't know that how many people understand this part of it, when there's a real estate transaction, and let's just use $100,000 as an easy number because I'm a simple guy, there's 1.7 is the multiplier to the economy, right? So that's economic activity. So you say, well, the Angels bring in economic activity to Anaheim, or the Dodgers bring it into Los Angeles, the Rams bring it into wherever they bring it into, or whatever. Well, real estate's all over. You think about 1.7. That's a massive impact on the economy. So if you think the economy is slow, wonder if how much real estate has to do with it. What do you think?
Because every transaction employs so many people.
Well, you've got the builder. You've got the...
I think it's up to 51 or 52 people you can actually name in the whole process, counting the underwriters and the people you never meet.
Right.
Who are behind the scenes, the assistants, and all of those
You've got the
people.
cost of the loan. You've got the cost of the real estate firm. You've got the title firm. You've got the inspectors. Jim, how much contracting goes into every new purchase?
32 subs build a house.
32 subs to build a house. And if I go to buy a new house, well,
32 companies plus
No, but
whatever they.
but
I
I'm
mean,
saying-
that's the sub. That's
Right,
not
but I'm going
one,
to the next-
one person.
But I'm thinking the other
So,
side
yeah.
of it. If I go to buy a house and an existing home, the chances are my wife doesn't like the color of the carpet and doesn't like the color of the walls, regardless of whether they were brand new or not. Right? You're consulting with the consumer, with the seller, saying, you know something, we should probably whitewash these walls to get it a little more neutral, and maybe we want to put in some new carpeting or clean it. And then my wife comes in and says, because we bought the house, Blake's wife comes in, they don't like the color that you
Right.
picked.
Right. So the seller goes through the process of fixing up the house, and the buyer comes along and rips it all out.
Well,
Right.
and
and
again,
it's been in there for 90 days.
But think about that. That's all economic activity.
yeah, it
that goes
is
in,
massive, massive
well,
amounts.
you've got let's just say on paint, you've got the painter, you've got the paint supplier, you've got the paint manufacturer,
Trucker
you've
that
got all-
brought the paint to
and
the
then-
paint
a
company.
roof
truck-
alone can cost you between 30 and 50,000, depending on how big your house is, and,
Right.
I mean,
the quality of the roof.
It's just a number of people moving, and you're right though. But the question, I mean, if you're going to get into the question of why is real estate so slow when there is low inventory and high demand? I mean, higher than inventory. Why is it so slow? It's what is the rest of the economy doing that's sucking money away from real estate?
Oh, you mean like the 4 trillion that Congress just? No, never mind.
Kind of like that.
Kind of gave themselves another gift.
The problem is if you mention anything, you're almost politicizing.
Politicizing it.
Thank you. And it's not really that way from a straight life economic. You just read it. You said how we got here to the interest rates. We can tell you that. The guy, but everybody going forward always has that little 2-letter word, if. So if this does this, if that does. So the reality
when you put 200
is you
economists
can
in a
only-
room, you can always get 300 answers.
Yes. And so you exactly. And so, but right now you've got this window that you can deal with where you actually have known tangible information. And that's the world you have to work in right now. Unfortunately, it's not a buyer's market. It's not a seller market. It's very
It's a market.
neutral.
Small
It's a
market.
small market, and it's moving very slowly. Is that you're correct in saying that the market is just moving slow. So that as an economic generator for the country, it is not. And real estate, remember, is the biggest investment a family or a person will own out of everything. You might have more stock if you're in that position, but the average American, the biggest purchase is the house.
Absolutely.
And
Without a doubt.
so given that means the biggest payment in the house is not the car, it's going to be the house.
Oh, but to your point, the average car payment is now $800.
Mhm.
I wish it was.
What was it the lowest were you
Well, there's 17. Like you're part of that 17%. I'm
Well,
sure
were
that's
you
over
talk-
1,000.
Well,
were we talking was it you and I were talking where we said that the lowest price car out there, brand new
yes.
from the dealer, was 20,000 almost
Yeah. Well, then
or
there's
more. mean, it's
you,
like-
you can hardly find a car for 20 of any even.
We have the car
even in the
guru.
Well, yeah,
used-
we're talking new, brand new. We're not talking a
Yeah.
used car. You could get
I mean,
all over the market a little bit. but-
I bought the stripped down Mustang out the door for our son from down the street here at Villa Ford, and that car was almost 40,000 out the door.
Yeah.
Stripped down Mustangs.
Yeah, by the time you got done,
Is that
with
the one
all
that looks like an SUV now?
No.
No, that's the
No.
That's double.
This was an actual Mustang.
Looks like a
the
real
original-
Mustang.
Real Mustang,
But the small
4-cylinder
engine.
EcoBoost, and
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that old. I mean, drive down the street and I saw a car. Looked at it, said Mustang on the back. That's an SUV or a crossover. That's not the Mustang that we own.
But he's creating more jobs because that car is now sitting in the impound yard, totaled.
Oh, so
Okay,
you're gonna
we
get.
don't want
so-
to. We
so-
don't want to go.
No, I'm just saying, no, it's not a bad thing. I mean, we all do it as kids. I mean,
don't- we
I
don't
just
wanna-
look at it. You know,
Father
no one got hurt, and
Father and son alike. Here.
Yeah,
I don't want to go there, but
I fully admit to it. You know, it's
But it's
a rite of passage for
but
some
your
people.
multiplier is interesting. I don't have any multiplier depth other than age. And when I was 16, you could buy a car for $500. Now it was a
No.
a
Yeah.
junker
No,
and
you-
everything.
$500.
Okay, but
I-
and everybody, but that wasn't cheap to you because you were
Well, that's
making,
true, but it was a Model T, Jim. I mean,
it was, but you weren't. I mean, you didn't make $18, $20 an hour at In and Out. You made
I was lucky to make $18 a day. I didn't even. Actually,
you
I
made
$8
You
a
made
day.
$8 a day.
Hey, you're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. When we come back, I want to get back to what we were talking about. The commercial real estate market crash. Is it on the way? I'm going to say
crystal ball.
Yes. And we'll talk about that when we come back. You can reach me anytime off air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
79% of all credit reports have errors that should be corrected through factual disputing. You could be saving thousands every year if your report was accurate. CreditSanitizer.com provides a free credit report audit when you furnish a specific $1 credit report. You can use this information to request corrections to your report and potentially save thousands of dollars. Get your free credit audit at CreditSanitizer.com. That's CreditSanitizer.com for a free credit report audit. CreditSanitizer.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That's my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Your Credit Matters segment today being brought to you by CreditSanitizer.com. You have a credit report, it is wrong. What are you doing about it? Credit Sanitizer has these solutions. And one of the solutions, big one, student loan debt. You're going to have to start making those payments again, probably in September. Well, we've got a company that's coming on board with Ron Siegel Radio that will analyze your student loan debt and see what programs you may qualify for to help reduce that payment, and maybe even get you on one of the programs that actually gives a forgiveness. And it's already in the law, so it's not like it's the president coming out there and saying that and everybody fights over it. So there are a lot of programs out there, and we're going to be working on that with you. It's Your Credit Matters, brought to you by CreditSanitizer.com. So Blake made a comment earlier in the broadcast, and I want to chat about it a little bit. For those of you that are investors in commercial real estate. Now, I used to have some commercial real estate. I still do lead a lending team that handles some commercial real estate. Generally, you've got loans in commercial real estate are shorter term loans. They're amortized over a longer period, or not a long period, but they generally are a short term loan. What does that mean? So you have a loan that's a 5-year loan that's amortized over 25 years. So you've got a balloon payment after 5 years, or you have to restructure the loan. You might have a 10-year loan, so you have to restructure that after 10 years. Now think about this. Right now, we're a year out from interest rates having doubled. Now, nobody really bought real estate last year. Blake already talked about that. The last 3 quarters of the year, interest rates scared the heck out of everybody. So people weren't really buying real estate. They weren't doing their restructuring. So if you had a commercial loan that was in the 4 or 5 or 6% range, and that has recently doubled, and you're now at a point where you're a year out from having to redo that loan, your payment's going to go significantly higher. Now, my last lease, I'll tell you, I was paying $55,000 a month on my last lease. The landlord had to pay a certain amount of that, right? Because he didn't own the property free and clear. Now, if he had to restructure, he was going to be facing a payment of double where he was. Do you think he could afford that? Probably not. So now what happens is it goes to default. Property values drop. Banks don't want those properties. So it would not surprise me to see a market crash in commercial real estate. What do you think?
Well, occupancies have dropped so far. I mean, I was talking to a building management company that runs buildings all over Orange County, and they were talking to me about one specific. I'm not going to name the building, but they were very transparent that 5 years ago they had a 98% occupancy, and what was turning over was leasing.
Sure.
Now they have 56% occupancy, so their income and people are asking for concessions because coming out of the pandemic, their business
People haven't gone
cycles-
back to work.
They haven't gone back to work. Their businesses have suffered. And some people, have been fortunate to have businesses where they move on, but other, they can get past it. But other people are still being impacted by the cause and effect. You can't shut down the entire economy.
The light switch was pretty quick, but turn it back on was a little slower.
It takes time.
Sure.
And it
14 days.
And just to flatten the curve.
Yeah, just to flatten the curve.
Once we flatten the curve, then it was okay. So, but the reality is there's probably it's going to be a local market thing. I think it's going to be, city by city, and it's not going to be the entire nation commercial, but I think there are definitely areas where it's more vulnerable than others. When you have smaller commercial spaces in smaller cities, and there's like, in Yorba Linda, there's not that much commercial space.
Sure.
So if you're looking to open a business, you don't have that many options.
But I did see on the news just recently that, New York is another one that, about 50% of the space is vacant.
Yeah. And it's one of the few cities where actually there's net migration back to the city.
Right.
Now that the pandemic's over. I'm not saying maybe by 5 people, but it's still there.
Both of them came back.
Yeah, both of them came back. But relative to what they've lost, no, they've lost considerable size of population.
Now, Jim, I don't know. I'm going to throw this to you because I have no clue on this one. When you go to do building, are you doing short-term loans for building, or can you project out when you're doing a construction on a project?
That's all. It's short-term basis. I mean, because the project only has a standard track, let's say, has a life of 18 to 24 months. You're financing through the construction, and then you're paying down that loan as you do your sale outs at different levels. So it's not the same as commercial, but it's very similar. The problem is that you're not holding the fixed entity. But again, a commercial developer can do the same thing. He can get to the end of it and sell his building if he wants, rather than refi it out. It depends on what level he wants to step off the boat.
But when we're talking about the residential real estate, because that's most of our audience is going to be residential.
Okay, swing back to that for a minute. We had a conversation this morning already about mortgage rates, supply and demand on residential. Now we're moving over to the commercial. And everybody's going, well, nobody's going back to the office. And unfortunately, we've got to remember, commercial is commercial industrial, commercial warehouse, commercial office, as well as commercial retail. Those are the branches that make up the term commercial. It's not just industrial or anything. So with that, what do you think happening? I'm the optimist. I see opportunity happening for every office building of age that is being refinanced. There is the chance that it can be sold, and that gives you an opportunity for rehab and turning it into some form of residential. I mean, you can either knock it down, you can, if it's something cool in the downtown city, you could do lofts. You got to think about it. It's like we're being doomsdayers saying, okay, yes, commercial loans are coming due. And I'm in agreement with Blake. It's going to be specifically by area. The newer ones are going to have harder trouble than the older ones because the buildings have been paid down, sure. But at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of opportunity for residential opportunities. Apartments, taking down a building, putting up apartments. We're seeing it in Orange County. How much are you seeing?
Brea Mall.
Huh?
They're going to be doing
Brea Mall is going to get
soon.
revamped, and they're going to be putting apartments in the parking lot. So what do you think the Brea Mall is going to be? It's not going to be the J.C. Penney's and everything anymore. It's going to be service stores. It's going to be the Ring store. It's going to be the Apple store. My favorite subject.
A lot of online
but
companies
restaurants,
just take the storefront.
everything walking, but because they're going to have 4 to 5 story, 400 unit apartment buildings in the parking lot. These people are going to want to go. There's going to be a Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh. There's going to be a lot of redevelopment going on in all this. But if you go into
there's always opportunity. When there's blood in the street, there's opportunity for somebody.
And where there's confusion, there's opportunity.
We'll leave it there. You're listening to great information from Jim Norton and Blake Vartanian. If you want more information, give us a call at 800-306-1990. And I agree with Jim's comment there. You hear a lot of negativity around. If you've positioned yourself and your family properly, when there's negativity around, that's when the most money can be made. Just throw that out there for you. As always, I ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean for engineering us today. And, of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime. 800-306-1990. 800-306-1990 or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.